Mark had always believed his life was perfect. Loving wife, Sarah, 2 wonderful kids, and a home filled with laughter. They were college sweethearts, the couple everyone envied. He was a dedicated husband, always putting his family first, working hard to provide them with everything they needed. He thought they had it all, a bond built on 20 years of love, trust, and shared memories. But one ordinary Tuesday evening, his perfect world was about to be shattered by a single accidental discovery. He was working late from home, trying to finish up a presentation. His own laptop was running slow, so he remembered Sarah had recently bought a new one. He asked if he could borrow it, and she agreed without a second thought, handing it over with a smile. He opened it, connected to the Wi-Fi, and started to work. Everything seemed normal. His presentation was nearly done when a notification popped up in the corner of the screen. It was an email, a new message from someone named Alex. The subject line was simple: "Tonight, curiosity." A feeling he rarely associated with his wife's emails pricked at him. He tried to ignore it, telling himself it was probably just a work thing, a friend, anything but what his gut was suddenly screaming. But he couldn't shake the feeling. His heart began to pound a little faster. With a trembling hand, he clicked on the notification. The email opened, and the words on the screen blurred together as his world tilted on its axis. It wasn't a long email, just a few lines. "Can't wait for tonight, the usual spot. I miss you, signed A." It was intimate, secretive, and utterly devastating. Mark read it again, and then a third time, hoping his eyes were deceiving him, hoping this was some kind of sick joke or a misunderstanding. But the words remained, stark and clear. The usual spot. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a routine. He felt the air leave his lungs. His hands grew cold. Who was Alex? What was the usual spot? How long had this been going on? The questions swarmed his mind like angry hornets. He quickly closed the email, his mind racing. He had to know more. He felt a wave of guilt for what he was about to do, but the betrayal he felt was stronger. He opened her email client and typed Alex into the search bar. The results loaded, and with each email that appeared, another piece of his heart broke. There were dozens of them stretching back months, maybe even a year. They were filled with secret plans, shared jokes, and declarations of feelings that he thought were reserved only for him. They talked about secret getaways, late-night calls, and moments stolen away from her family, from him. He saw pictures attached to some of them, Sarah laughing with a man he didn't recognize, looking happier and more carefree than he'd seen her in years. The man, Alex, was handsome. He noted with a bitter pang of jealousy. They looked good together. The thought was like a knife twisting in his gut. He saw emails where Sarah complained about him, about their life, about feeling trapped and bored. She described their marriage as a comfortable routine, and Mark as predictable. Each word was a betrayal, a dagger to his soul. He had dedicated his life to being a good husband, a reliable partner. To her, that was boring. He slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing in the silent house. He felt a storm of emotions, rage, heartbreak, confusion, and a profound sense of loss. The woman he loved, the mother of his children, was a stranger. Their life together, the one he cherished, was a lie. He stood up and paced the room, his mind a chaotic mess. What was he supposed to do? Confront her? Stay silent? He walked to the window and looked out at the quiet street. The world outside was the same, but his world had been turned upside down. He thought back over the past year. The late nights she claimed were with friends. The sudden interest in going to the gym. The way she guarded her phone. All the little red flags he had dismissed, trusting her completely, now flew in his face, mocking his naivety. He heard the front door open downstairs. "Mark, I'm heading out for a bit with the girls. Be back later," Sarah called out, her voice cheerful and light. At the sound of her voice, once a comfort, now sent a chill down his spine. Right. The usual spot, the email had said. It wasn't the girls. It was Alex. The lie was so easy for her, so natural. He didn't answer. He couldn't. He just stood there, paralyzed by the truth. He heard the door close and a car start. She was gone. Left alone in the deafening silence of their home, Mark sank into a chair. The evidence was undeniable. The trust that had been the foundation of their entire relationship was gone, pulverized into dust. He wasn't just hurt, he was broken. He had given her everything, his loyalty, his love, his entire life. And it wasn't enough. He didn't know how long he sat there, staring into space. The initial shock and rage began to subside, replaced by a deep, aching sadness. He thought of his kids, asleep in their rooms, oblivious to the fact that their family was imploding. He had to protect them. But how? What was the right thing to do? Part of him wanted to pack a bag and just leave, to escape the pain and the lies. Another part wanted to scream and rage and demand answers. But a quieter, colder voice in his head told him to be smart. Rushing into a confrontation while he was this emotional wouldn't solve anything. He needed a plan. He needed to be strategic. He opened the laptop again, his hand steadier this time. Took screenshots of the emails, saving them to a flash drive. He needed proof, not for a court of law, not yet anyway, but for his own sanity. Proof that he wasn't crazy, that this nightmare was real. As he gathered the evidence, a cold resolve settled over him. The hurt was still there, a gaping wound in his chest, but now it was accompanied by a steely determination. He wasn't going to let her destroy him. He wasn't going to be the pathetic, cheated-in husband. He had built this life, this family, with his own 2 hands. He wouldn't let her tear it down without a fight. But this fight wouldn't be with shouting and accusations. It would be quiet, calculated, and on his terms. When Sarah came home later that night, humming a happy tune, she found Mark sitting on the couch watching TV. He looked up and gave her a small, tight smile. "Hey, you're back. Have a good time?" he asked, his voice surprisingly calm. "Yeah, it was great," she said, leaning down to kiss his cheek. The touch felt like fire on his skin. He didn't flinch, he just nodded. "That's good," he said, turning his attention back to the screen. Sarah felt a flicker of unease. He seemed distant, but she brushed it off. Maybe he was just tired from work. She had no idea that the man sitting next to her was not the same man she had left a few hours ago. The loyal, trusting husband was gone. In his place was a man who had seen the truth, a man whose world had been shattered, and who was now silently planning his next move. The perfect marriage was over. A new uncertain chapter had just begun. And Mark was determined that he would be the one to write the ending. Thanks for watching. If you've ever faced a betrayal that changed your life, know that you are not alone, and finding your strength is the first step toward a new beginning. Remember to like and subscribe for more stories.